Welcome back to the Old English Debrief. It is Wednesday, April 1st, and no, this episode is not an April Fool's joke, and neither is the box scores from the last 48 hours, as much as we might wish that they were. I'm your host, Josh Hendrickson, and today, April 1st, 2026, we are breaking down a desert road trip that has felt like more of a survival mission than a vacation. It's been a very up and down start to the season. We're sitting here looking at a 1-1 split in Arizona. But the vibes feel a lot heavier than that. We've seen the highest of highs, like a 6-run explosion in the seventh inning of Game 2, and some concerning lows. And we're going to get into all of that in this episode. Thank you for joining us today. And we are going to be recapping all sorts of stuff in the first couple games of the season. As we continue on, the Tigers' bats have been almost completely silent. We're talking about a lineup that has struggled to find their air, leaving our pitching staff on a razor's edge every single night. And when you walk that edge, you need the back end of the bullpen to be a fortress, and instead, last night, Will Vest, Drew Anderson, and even the veteran Kenley Jansen stumbled in high leverage spots. When the bats aren't providing insurance, these lapses aren't just frustrating, they're season defining. Today, we're going to dig into why the veteran core is in a funk. We're going to be leaning, and why we're leaning on players like Colt Keith and Kevin McGonigal, and whether Tarik Skubal can play the role of ultimate stopper in today's rubber match. We've also got to look at the crowded AL Central, which, again, early, but always good to look at. The biggest stories from around the league, including some Shohei Ohtani magic that doesn't seem real. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. So we're going to start out in San Diego. I know those games have already passed, but it's been a while since we have had an episode. So we started off pretty good. Taking a series win in San Diego is a massive way to start the year, even with the shutout loss on Saturday coming with a 2-1 record. Coming to Arizona with a 2-1 record and some hardware in the win column is exactly what the team needed. As far as the games go, the good look like the youth movement. Kevin McGonigal's historic debut. Talk about magic. McGonigal went 4 for 5 in the opener and followed it up with a game-winning 2-run single in the 8th inning of Game 2. He finished the series with a .556 average, going 5 for 9, and showed zero fear of big league pitching. Tarik Skubal looked every bit of that Cy Young favorite that he is, carving through 6 innings of 3 hit ball with 6 strikeouts and 0 earned runs. Framber Valdez followed that up with a strong quality start of 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and 5 Ks, proving that the top of the rotation is going to be a nightmare for opponents. And then we got Colt Keith. He's the only one that could touch Randy Vasquez on the Saturday, accounting for both of the team's hits, a single and a double. And his 400-plus average for the first 3 games is a spark plug that this lineup definitely needs. In San Diego, Kenley Jansen looked vintage in his debut, striking out the side on just 11 pitches to shut the door. And then, as far as the bad goes in San Diego, there was some self-inflicted wounds. The young guys thrived. Power bats struggled with timing. Gary Carpenter and Javi Baez combined for 0 hits in the first 2 games with a very high whiff rate. We're definitely going to need that middle of the order production to stabilize. Flaherty started strong. He retired the first 8 batters he faced in Game 3, and the wheels came off, walking 4 1/3 innings and losing his rhythm in the 5th was a difference maker in that finale. And then on Saturday, getting 2 hit by Randy Vasquez isn't the way you want to end a road trip outside of Colt Keith. The lineup went 0 for 24, which is a little bit alarming. Looking at just everything and thinking back to the postseason, we want to see our power guys and our big hitters hit the ball. Speaking of big hitters, Riley Green is currently a ground ball king for all the wrong reasons. Despite an average exit velocity north of 95 miles per hour, he's hitting the ball on the ground just about 65% of the time, and it's killing his production. If he starts lifting those balls, he's going to have a career year, though. There's an error by Gleyber Torres on the Tatis steal in Game 3, which allowed a run to score that ultimately didn't matter in the outcome. but it's those small fundamental lapses that we want to clean up as the year goes on. And Mason Miller shut the door for the Padres in Game 3, and that's a reminder of how tough the back of their bullpen is now that Robert Suarez has moved out to Atlanta. The story of the series, though, has to be Colt Keith and Kevin McGonigal. Keith currently is locked in with a 429 average and a 1143 OPS. He's showing incredible poise, refusing to chase out of the zone. McGonigal hasn't been far behind, coming up with a clutch performance in Game 2. And Dylan Dingler's also providing real pop from the catcher spot, sporting a 1096 OPS and showing a knack for finding the gaps when it matters most. And then JV had his start and his return. First official outing of 2026 was one he'd likely want back. Gave up 5 earned in just 3 2/3 innings for a 12.27 ERA. Defense didn't help much early on, and the long ball was a problem, with Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll taking advantage of mistakes on the offensive side. His stuff did look good. He just struggled here and there. I think, the veteran presence of Verlander, he'll figure it out. I'm not too worried. Gary Carpenter is definitely in a serious funk, though. He is hitting 063 for the series with a 50% strikeout rate and has 11 Ks. He's swinging through a lot of high heat, and it's stalling at the top of the order. And overall in the series with Arizona last night, Jansen, Vest, and Anderson all dropped the ball. We want those high leverage relievers to be strong in those high leverage spots. And then today's preview, we are closing out the rubber match. We have Skubal versus Gallen. It's a heavyweight bout. We got Tarik Skubal on the mound against Zach Gallen, and statistically, these two are mirrors of each other. Both are living in the zone with a zone percentage north of 44%, but Skubal has the slight edge in stuff right now. Scoob is sporting a 31% whiff rate, primarily using that high velocity four-seamer, which he throws almost 38% of the time, and a devastating changeup to keep hitters off balance. Gallen, on the other hand, is a master of the secondary stuff, leaning heavily on his curveball and slider to generate a 25% whiff rate. Like I said earlier, Riley's been hitting the ball on the ground about 65% of the time, which is definitely a concern. Against a pitcher like Gallen, who excels keeping the ball down, Green needs to focus on lifting that ball and finding the grass. Marte and Carroll, the D-backs duo, is dangerous. Ketel Marte has a 56% pull rate right now. So look for the Tigers to shift heavily when he's up, and Corbin Carroll's speed is the X factor. If he gets on, he's going to test Dylan Dingler's arm, which has been solid but faces a big test today. As far as zone discipline goes, the Tigers' path to victory today, in my opinion, is patience. Gallen's going to try to get them to chase the curveball in the dirt, and if Keith and McGonigal can maintain their sub 22% chase rates, they can force Gallen into hitters' counts. We also want to see Javi, Green, Torque all do more in today's game. And just in general, Kyle Finnegan and Tyler Holton have both saw work yesterday, so who's left to close this one out is Skubal Haynes the lead over in the 7th. Just in general, it'll be interesting to see how AJ Hinch uses the bullpen, and we'll have to see what happens. As far as the team goes overall, like I've said, Colt Keith and Kevin McGonigal have been real standouts. Dylan Dingler's has been absolutely tattooing the ball when he connects, sporting a massive 667 slugging percentage and a 25% barrel rate. And on the flip side, we've seen swing and miss stuff from Carp and Baez, north of 40% of a whiff rate, and Carey has 11 strikeouts and just 22 plate appearances. He has come around a little bit. He's had RBIs in the last 2 games, so that's nice to see. But he definitely needs to find his timing as we head back into Detroit after this game. And then, speaking of our hitters, Spencer Torkelson has a 150 average rather, but don't let that fool you into thinking he's lost. His line drive rate sitting at 33%, which is fantastic, elite really, and he's hitting into some tough luck, but the process is there. I'd like to see Kevin McGonigal with a 20% barrel rate in his limited looks is something that you just can't ignore. And he's hitting toward the top of the order today. As far as the AL East goes, Cleveland is leading currently with a 3-3 record. Jose Ramirez is already in midseason form, but their pitching has been inconsistent outside of the starters. Followed by the Royals with a 2-2 record. Bobby Witt Jr. is already a nightmare on the base paths, and they've been picked by many to as the worst to first candidate this year. The Tigers are a half game back with a 2-3 record. Our starting pitching's been elite, but the bats are looking for any sign of life outside of the seventh inning. Followed by the Twins at 1-3 record. A slow start for Byron Buxton and the crew, struggling to find the long ball early. And rounding out our division are the Chicago White Sox with a 1-4 record, with Munetaka Murakami being the lone bright spot, homering in each of his first 3 big league games. As far as around the league goes, the Dodgers are terrifying. Breaking news, I guess. Los Angeles went out and added Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz this offseason, and it's already paying dividends, and they're sitting at 4-1. Shohei Ohtani just tossed 6 scoreless innings on the mound in his mound debut yesterday against the Guardians, and he looked completely healthy, which is frankly a little unfair. The Japanese power arrival, aside from Murakami in Chicago, which we've talked about, the Blue Jays have Kazuma Okamoto making a massive impact. He came over with a huge power reputation and is already stabilizing a Toronto lineup that looks like a legitimate World Series threat. And Tyler O'Neill keeps his opening day streak alive. He's now homered in 6 straight opening day games. That's a new MLB record, passing legends like Yogi Berra and Gary Carter. It's one of those weird baseball stats to make the start of the season so great. And probably one of the biggest non-player stories of the season thus far is the new ABS challenge system. Players are already utilizing the automated ball strike challenge system. It's adding a whole new strategic layer to the game and some early drama when high leverage strikeouts get overturned. As of late, CV Buckner has really gotten the brunt of it, getting many calls overturned. There's a whole great breakdown that John Boy did. I definitely suggest you checking that out. It's April 1st. Don't look at the bad or the losing columns and panic. The Brewers started 0-4 last year and finished with the most wins in baseball. The AL Central's wide open, and if our bats can just find 75% of the power they had last year, we're going to be right at the top at the list by May. I really, it's still very early. There's some things that are concerns, but it's early. So I would say my biggest concern right now is if you want to win the AL Central, we got to win games. We got to win games against teams like Arizona, especially when we get to the bullpen early. So just keep an eye on it as the season goes on. My question of the day today is, which AL Central rival worries you the most this season? Is it Jose Ramirez and the Guardians or Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals? That Royals has the Royals have a lot of speed, and the Guardians have a lot of experience. Leave your comment on Spotify and let me know. We'll be back on Friday for the weekend preview, a big start in Comerica. And until then, be kind to each other and go Tigers for life.